God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter, is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
But he does not. But
The Abominable Snowman.
The Abominable Snowman does. But I digress.
Welcome to God'll Get You for That, Walter, a podcast where we discuss the 1970s hit sitcom Maude. And today today's our episode 70.
Episode 70.
Thank God, because the 69ing was just, it's always out of control.
Out of control.
69ing. And this episode is called The Cabin.
And this was from season 3.
Episode 22.
Episode 22. When did it air?
March 10th, 1975. And it was directed by Hal Cooper, written, of course, by Bud Grossman and Norman Lear. And this was a very 70s episode.
It was very fast-paced.
Very fast.
This is a very fast-paced
very
episode.
fast-paced episode.
Because we write notes as we're watching this.
We do. We take notes. We were
were
struggling.
Writing furiously. My hand is sore.
Yeah, no. Thor Anderson. Our hand is Thor Anderson.
Hand is Thor.
So, what'd you think of the episode?
Oh, it's good. I liked it.
I enjoyed the episode.
It's a good episode.
Not in the top 10 or 20, but it served its purpose for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But it also had a very good message in it, as far as newlyweds versus old fuddy-duddies.
Couples that have been
together for a while.
Yes.
Which means you get to tell us all about your relationship with your husband.
Yes.
Aren't you thrilled?
We are the old fuddy-duddies. We are the old fuddy-duddies.
So the episode opens with Mrs. Naugatuck coming out of the kitchen singing, "Oh, what a beautiful morning." And as soon as she finishes saying morning, Walter and Maude come down the stairs.
And they're arguing
furiously.
Yes.
And obviously something happened where Walter was not being romantic with Maude, and Walter had said, "Not before I've had my coffee."
Not before I have my coffee.
Not before I've had my coffee.
And
they race back upstairs, and
Carol comes out of the kitchen.
Yes.
Into the dining room area, and she asked Mrs. Naugatuck
what they were arguing about this early in the morning.
Yes. Of course, and Mrs. Naugatuck insists she's not one to eavesdrop.
And, Carol's like, "Since when?"
Yeah.
So then Mrs. Naugatuck gives this really charming story about how Mrs. Naugatuck was listening at the door.
Not since she got, impaled.
Impaled on the bedpost in Mr. and Mrs. Finley's bedroom.
Yes. Because apparently Maude
opened the door.
Realized she was eavesdropping, opened the door quick, and she went flying in.
I've always wanted to do that with someone, but it's never. That's only a trope that really happens in like physical comedy.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that happen in real life.
You sounded like that. You just sounded like that episode of Golden Girls where Blanche asked Dorothy, didn't you ever want to talk during it?
Dirty talk.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to.
But nobody seems
to be interested at the time.
In conversation.
I've always wanted to, but at the time it just seemed nobody was really interested in conversation.
No one's really interested in conversation at that point. Oh.
I mean, do you?
Conversation? No.
No.
Do I dirty talk?
Do you dirty talk?
Well, not filth. Oh yes, that feels quite right. Keep doing that. I'm a fan of doing that. That's wonderful. Keep doing that. Wonderful. Up and we're finished. Please continue in that fashion.
Almost.
Or it could be
there
more
we
like
are.
the hooky foot. You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, and then you shake it all about.
Not shake it all about.
Oh my Lord!
These are real tears I'm crying.
Oh,
tears of joy.
Oh, only the tears of joy. So
at that point, Walter and Maude come back
they
down.
come back
the
downstairs.
And Walter is trying to say he's sorry. Maude is saying he's not sorry. And Carol says, "Good morning, lovebirds."
And Walter says, even Carol thinks that we're lovers.
Yes.
And even Carol says that we're lovebirds.
Lovebirds.
And Maude says something about Heckle and Jekyll.
Yes. You know who Heckle and Jekyll are, don't you?
I have always heard the expression, but I've never done enough research to know who they are.
They're just these two animated crows from Heckle and Jekyll. They were these two crows. They were in the Looney Tunes shorts and things like that. Heckle and Jekyll.
Oh. I'm going to ask you, were they voiced by black actors?
I don't think so.
Because
I doubt that back then they would have even had black.
I mean, listen, they
had
actors. They did with Dumbo.
Oh, did they?
Those actors that were, I'm pretty sure those crows were voiced by black actors.
Oh.
I don't think they were voiced by white actors.
Oh, okay. I
could also be wrong. All right, hold up. Where's my phone? Because now I'm terribly interested in. Oh, and my
because back then it was very commonplace. It didn't matter with the ethnicity. They just had a white person do it. I mean, that's. And I was just while you're looking that up. You know what I found interesting? There was I forget what was the name of the movie. I think it was a Ben Stiller movie, and they had Robert Downey Jr. play in the movie. He plays a black person. Do you remember that? They put him in blackface.
Hold on, no.
You don't remember that?
Cliff Edwards.
Oh, he played the
Cliff Edwards played all the crows.
Right, and he's a white guy.
And he is very white guy.
I told you, yes, that was Hollywood back then.
I didn't know that.
So much entertainment. They took
I mean, obviously, but I mean, there was a part of because there were black entertainers in vaudeville. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have the same sort of pull that a white entertainer did.
Right.
And I was recently I was reading Sophie Tucker's autobiography because that's the type of fag I am.
Fair.
I was I was reading Sophie Tucker's autobiography, and she had said in her autobiography that one of the reasons how she became very prominent in the world of vaudeville was that they blackened her face up with cork.
Oh yeah,
they blackened her face up with cork.
There's a video we've spoken about
Judy Garland. Yeah.
That
makes my heart so unhappy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That makes my heart really unhappy.
Yeah, well,
I'm very upset about that.
That's the that long sordid history of Hollywood. Whitewashing ethnicities. Putting a white person in the role of.
And then I think of Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh,
I think Breakfast at Tiffany's with Mickey Rooney in Yellowface.
That was terrible. But recently it came back up again about Robert Downey Jr. That movie, I forget, it was Thunder or something, I think. It was a Ben Stiller movie.
Operation Thunder. I know what movie you're talking about. That always comes back up.
Yeah.
When it comes to the subject of.
But the thing
race.
is, I took it to be that they were trying to point out how that it was a bad how stupid it is to just to take a white person.
The movie was satire.
Right, it was satire.
The movie was satire. And the problem is, I don't want to say it this way because this is not about wokeness. This is not about the term woke. What this is about is entertaining and also educating. Mm. And I feel like that's what Ben Stiller was trying to do.
Right. I felt like he was trying to say, look how ridiculous it is to take a white person and have them play a person of a different ethnicity.
Yeah, and they made it abundantly clear in the movie. It was made very clear in the movie that that's what this was about.
Yeah, he was trying to point out the hypocrisy and everything.
That was exactly what they did.
Right, but apparently Robert Downey Jr. still gets a lot of flack.
He will continue to get a lot of flack, but what strikes me as interesting is I do not believe that Robert Downey Jr. is getting hate from the black community.
Right.
I feel like Robert Downey Jr. is getting hate from white saviors.
Yes.
And from
I
people
think
that
you're right.
suffer from a white savior complex.
Right.
Like Maude. Maude would be a perfect
Right.
example of a white savior.
Right.
And she would be she would probably be one of the first people to say, no, that's wrong. That
Right.
when it's
Right.
like it's supposed to be a joke.
Right.
And the only people that are in on the joke are the people that pay attention to
Right.
what satire is and
Right.
what humor is.
Right.
So it's just
Because he wasn't taking a role away from a person of ethnicity.
No.
It was always supposed to be the role was supposed to be. We're showing how ridiculous it is for Hollywood to take a white actor and cast them in the role of a person of color.
Yes.
So,
And that's how we got here from Heckle and Jekyll.
and this all goes back to Heckle and Jekyll.
Goes back to Heckle and
Although
Jekyll.
I don't know, but I don't think Heckle and Jekyll were portrayed. I don't remember them being portrayed as like that. They were like African American birds.
Okay.
The way that like the birds are.
the way the
crows
birds
are
in Dumbo.
So I don't. Yeah, but anywho.
I mean, also look at Punch and Judy.
Mhm.
Punch and Judy is puppets,
Right.
and it's drag
It is
almost.
How's it drag?
Isn't one puppet a female? Or am I thinking of something entirely different?
I think it's Punch and Judy. I mean, because that goes way back to
That's way
to
back.
like the Renaissance era.
Yes.
Punch and Judy, which just I think Punch and Judy was more about a way for like the actors and artists to be political without but doing it so that they could make fun of
The politics.
and monarchies and things like that.
Yeah.
And get away with it because it was puppets doing it and they were making it funny. I think that's more.
I'd have to do more research.
Yeah,
on that.
I'm not like fully educated on Punch and Judy, but I think that's where it comes from.
No, that makes sense.
So
Nope, you're right. You're
I
right.
think
You're right.
so.
You're right.
I think so. But we digress.
More education on that for Tomcat.
Yes. So Maude's still going on about the not now, not before my coffee.
Yes.
And Walter says
He brings up Robert Redford and Barbara Streisand
from the movie, which is very big at the time. The Way We Were.
The Way We Were.
The Way We Were. You know what I always think of though when I think of that song? I remember the movie Fame from in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
The one girl, she's like the mother's trying to like get her in, and she wants her to be a singer, but she's really not a singer.
Not a singer.
And she has her singing The Way We Were, and then she goes into like, can it be that it was all so simple
The spoken word.
Or is time we written, and he gets in like in the dramatic school. And like when she faces, the mother's just sitting there and she has like one tear. Face. That kills me.
Aww.
My favorite part of that, I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it was very meaningful to me because, like, at the time, I was very, I was young.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the first movies.
You were young.
I believe it or
At one
not.
point, you were young.
At one point, I was young. But the one character who was gay.
Yeah.
And was like, it was a big thing because you very rarely saw very many gay characters in anything. Yeah. And he wasn't like a fop.
He wasn't he wasn't a stereotype. There was no stereotype.
He was just this normal young guy
who
just happened to be gay. So it was And I love the beginning of that movie, the auditioning.
Yes.
And when the black guy, Leroy, he's dancing, but he's only supposed to be helping this other girl who's like an awful
dancer.
And they're like, Debbie Allen's like, he's like, where's his audition paperwork? And they're like, he didn't have any. Get his audition paper. Get him some. So then he gets in, and the girl doesn't, and she's like, at the end, she's like, who wants to go to this ass-licking school anyway?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, so we went from the way we were to fame.
To fame, yes.
I don't know how we did that.
I mean, we went from Heckle and Jekyll to the Crows and Dumbo to Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder. I knew it was going to come to me.
So Walter's saying, like the only reason Robert Redford is like,
kissing Barbra Streisand before he's had his coffee
is because he got $1 million.
And Maude says, $1 million for Robert Redford?
Yes.
Money well spent.
Exactly.
And I mean, not for nothing, he's still gorgeous.
He never did it for me.
Really?
No.
I mean,
I would take Paul Newman over Robert Redford.
Well, I mean, I too would take Chris Evans over Chris Pratt any day too.
Definitely. So, I think Mrs. Nortex is saying she's got to do her morning dash.
Yes, and I think Walter says something to that. I've already had my morning dash. And, Maude says, yep, right past me. And then Maude apologizes, saying that she woke up on the wrong side of Mr. Finley's bed.
Right. And Mrs. Naugatuck is saying,
if there's a man in your bed,
yeah, there's no wrong side.
There's no wrong side.
Exactly.
And, I think at that point, Walter says something to the effect of, what a world.
Right.
What would happen if there were no women? And Maude says, it'd be worth it to see you go through labor pains. Have you seen those videos of men that have the electro, oh God, what are they called? They use them in physical therapy. They take electropads. They take electric pads that are used for e-stim, and they'll put them like right on a man's
pelvis.
The pelvis, like right on the upper pelvis, and they will just continue to increase the level of electricity so that they can experience labor pains and experience what it's like to go through period cramps.
Why?
Because there are some men that are curious about what it's like, and there are some women that will challenge them to do just that.
Okay. But you know what? Women get to live longer.
That's fair.
So
that's fair.
I mean, there's a trade-off. Yeah, they get period pains and labor contractions, but guess what? They get to live longer. And usually, they don't lose their hair either.
No. Women don't suffer that much alopecia.
So let me tell you. If you asked a woman, would you rather experience, period pain and labor pain or lose your hair? Let me tell you, 99.99% of women will tell you, I'll go through the period pain and labor pains.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
I mean, personally, I would much rather have a full head of hair than go through. Yeah.
I would put up with the labor and period pains if it meant I had a nice full head of hair. So
isn't that terrible how vain a society we are that that's the barometer?
It's true though. I mean, look at everywhere. Look at like all you can't go on Facebook or Instagram without seeing like something for like men's hair loss and all that stuff.
And women doing different things with
their hair.
It's
like $1 billion industry. Yeah,
it is $1 billion industry.
Anything to do with their hair and wigs and all that stuff. So.
It's I have such a problem with multi-billion-dollar industries. Just it only feeds into capitalism. It only feeds into but that's.
But we digress.
That is a story for another day.
So Walter says he's going to go read the paper in the delivery room.
Yes, he's going to read the paper.
And she's heading out. Carol didn't get very much in this episode.
There wasn't much for Adrian in this episode.
There's been very little for her in the third season, it seems.
I think
was she busy doing something else?
It was 75, and I think she was. What the hell was she doing?
Was she doing a play or something? Because
Adrienne was always doing, and I mean, to this day, she still is doing. Yeah. She's doing like a lot with voiceover. But I think back then she was doing some things with Broadway. She was doing plays. She was doing. I'm trying to think of what else she was doing. I think she was also doing like B movies.
Oh, okay.
She was doing a couple of B movies during that time period too.
So very little of Carol this season. So Carol's going to go to the library, and Maude tells her
to burn the joy of sex.
She sees the joy of sex, to burn it.
Have you read The Joy of Sex?
Hell no. Why would I? It's about heterosexual sex.
That's fair. What are you going to do that?
What
for?
am I going to do with that?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm trying to think of what you could possibly do with that book, and there is virtually nothing.
I mean, no offense, but the female orgasm is, inconsequential to me. I don't say they shouldn't have them. I mean, go for it, ladies. Go for it. It's just you're not going to be getting one from me.
Okay, I bought a book. A couple of years ago called Morgasm.
Morgasm.
M-O-R-E-G-A-S-M.
Sounds like a Marvel villain.
It's... And it'll be voiced by me.
Yes.
Or Kathleen Turner.
Same thing.
Okay, so...
Morgasm, you will never get away with your plot to take over the universe.
That's what you think. No. So I bought this book, Morgasm, and it essentially goes over everything but what I would be interested in learning about. It goes over the female anatomy. It goes over, I've learned more about vagina from that book. And, I was always interested in, like, the proper ways to bottom, the proper ways to prepare for bottoming, how to top.
Well, I think there is a Joy of Gay Sex book.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was.
Sure there are.
But how old was I when I bought that book? I think I was like just into my 20s. Like I think I had just turned 20, or I was like late teens, early 20s. And no, I bought it when I was in college. So that puts me at 18, 19. And I saw the book and I was just like, I'll buy it.
So let me ask, are you a platinum gay? You are.
I am.
Okay. Interesting. I thought so.
I am.
I thought so. I am not, obviously.
3 kids later, I don't think you are.
Not that I had the greatest desire to not be a platinum gay. It just was like, at the time I was just like, I felt like I would never get to, be my true self.
Yeah, but listen, that is the plight of a lot of that is the plight of a lot of men that I've been with.
Yeah.
Because there are times when I'll just one-off have conversations with guys, and we'll start talking, and they're like, "Oh, I was never really able to like experience being with a guy. I've never been able to do X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, "Well, I apologize that you had to go through that, but why?" And every time, shame,
right? Yeah.
Being ostracized,
right,
and feeling like they're not good enough. And, it's one of the reasons why I am such a proponent of therapy. Just talking about this to someone. Because, not everyone is going to be like me. Not everyone is going to want to engage in conversation. It's like, okay, I got off, go away. But I'm the type of person where I'm just like, why do you do this? Why do you... And so many times I've actually had to ask myself, do I feel guilty about being with married guys or being with guys that are in relationships? And I don't feel guilty at all, but I'm sure they do.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I genuinely feel like that would be a conversation that they would have to have with whomever it is that they talk to. But they sure as hell aren't talking to their wives.
Oh God,
or their spousal equivalents.
No.
But it's
or
just,
the other members of the Republican Party.
Or the other members of the Republican Party.
I just saw somebody saying about like how talking about was it CPAC?
Yeah, CPAC.
or something else. And
Michael
he said,
Jones, and he said that trans people should be eradicated.
No, somebody else who was saying like when you go to one of these things, he said Grindr.
Oh, Grindr blows
crazy.
up,
and it's all these guys with like faceless profiles saying that they can't host.
Yep.
And it's all the same thing. And it's all these Republicans that are so anti-gay, anti-trans.
And it all started with men being told that they had to be men.
The toxic masculinity.
That they had to be men, and that crying is for sissies.
The toxic masculinity.
I genuinely feel like because men were not allowed to emote and not allowed to be emotional, that has led to a lot of issues. Just a lot of issues in general. Like, I'm sure it's led to gun violence. I'm sure that men not being allowed to feel their feelings has been like one of the leading causes for suicide, unaliving, for suicide, for gun violence, for just all of these things. Granted, yes, money is also very important, but do you watch Eliza Schlesinger?
Mm-mm.
Do you have Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Watch a couple of her specials.
Okay.
She is an incredibly intuitive, smart, funny woman who is just she delivers her jokes with pinpoint accuracy. Like, I don't often compare people to George Carlin because he was just such a brilliant stand-up comedian, but she just has that very quick delivery. And she speaks about women and queers, and she sometimes touches on people of color, but like, she obviously knows that is not her place to make those remarks.
Right.
But she is intelligent enough to speak on issues, and she does it in a way that is not only intelligent but hysterical. And I can't recommend her comedy enough.
Check her out.
So
Vivian then comes in,
of
and
course,
Carol tells her she's off to the library to burn The Joy of Sex.
And Vivian says, "Oh, Carol, before you burn it, memorize it, program it to memory."
Yes. And she begins to tell Maude about her glorious day.
Oh, God.
How Arthur woke her up, and he kissed her, and then he took his... There's a lot about Arthur's stethoscope.
Lots about Arthur's stethoscope.
In this one. And he put...
I mean, the stethoscope could, in a way, be conceived as a euphemism.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, but it actually wasn't.
But it was a stethoscope.
his actual stethoscope. So he put one end in Vivian's ear, and he put the other end on his heart, and he's telling her it's the beat of love.
And Maude delivers, I understand, the Panasonic Series 5 stereo upchuck test.
Yeah. And Maude is going on about, oh, that's so corny and so hokey. Tell me more. Yes. So then Vivian reveals that they're going away for the weekend to a cabin
in Lake George.
Yes. Arthur has borrowed somebody's cabin up there.
Yep.
And they're gonna go up there, and they're tingly newlyweds.
Tingly tingle.
And Maude is
Rue really leaned into.
leaned
into that new Vivian character.
2.0. Yeah,
literally.
So Vivian 2.0.
Like, there were times like when I was listening to her, and I'm just going, what?
It's like, what the hell happened to Vivian?
What in the hell happened to Vivian?
What the hell happened to Vivian? So Maude is saying, newlyweds, her ring finger is already turned green. They're not really, and newlyweds anymore. And Vivian is saying, well, the bearskin rug in the den.
In the den.
Why
do you think it's smiling? Have you ever had a friend that was like that?
Have you ever had a friend? Had a friend like me?
No, have you ever had that type of friend that just like overshares, and every time they overshare, you just get a little envious?
There's this drag queen that lives down the street from me. Oh my! Can't begin to tell you.
You're envious of me? You are envious of moi?
Oh, no, the one who overshares. I think we're talking about the one who overshares.
I don't overshare. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know whom is the queen in which you speak of.
Where the hell were we? You're asking.
Well, not filth, for God's sake. But have you ever had that type of friend that will just overshare, and every time they overshare, you know that it is either
I'm usually the one oversharing.
You're kidding! You have got to be joking.
Usually the one oversharing. Showed you my friend Jesus.
God, not Jesus and Jose.
Jesus and Jose.
Oh my God! The day you came down with those dolls, and I'm like, they're not.
Carlos.
They're not. What are their names?
Billy and Carlos.
Billy and Carlos.
They're famous dolls.
When I was like, they're not anatomically correct,
Oh,
are they? And
Are
you
they
just did not say anything. You just unbuttoned their pants, and I'm like, oh wow, that's upsetting. G.I. Joe who?
More like G.I. Whoa.
Oh. Oh, hell's bells.
Surprised you can walk in October.
Literally.
So Maude is saying, oh, I hope you have a wonderful time. But she doesn't really mean it.
No, of course.
And Vivian is like, oh, she's telling Maude that they're just, cozy,
comfy old marrieds.
Yes. Maude is saying, where have
we gone wrong? How have we lost our way? And, Walter comes in from the den. And
she's saying the spontaneity is gone. Oh, by the way, the main reason Vivian came in was she had to borrow Maude's coat.
Yes, Maude's coat. But what did she call it? A tartan? I think she called it a tartan, something to that effect. I think it was a tartan.
Yes.
And to those that don't know, a tartan is a specific type of pattern.
Yes. So Maude is lamenting the spontaneity is gone. Their marriage is boring. There's no tingles left.
Now
There's no tingles left, Walter.
I have to ask.
Yes.
Are there tingles with you and Frank?
Oh yes.
Good.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
See, and there will be an episode, and I'm already ready for the joke.
Honestly, I'm like very surprised that after 20 years together that there are as many tingles as there are.
You know what? And that I mean, not only it makes me feel good as presently a single queer individual. But there will come a time when I will be with someone, God willing. If the Lord feels it right to deem me right with someone.
Well, don't forget. I mean, Frank and I, we didn't get together.
You didn't get together until you were 40.
I was like 40. He was in his 50s.
Yeah.
So
one never knows when love will find a way.
You never know.
And the two of you have been together for the past 20
years.
20 years.
Yeah. So.
And they're still going, kids.
Still going.
Still going.
Maybe not as much, not as fast,
but they're still going.
We still keep going.
Thank God the Finestra stopped working.
Yes.
You stopped taking the Finestra.
Don't get me started on the Finestra. Stay away from it. Stay away from it. No good. No goody good.
Oh hell!
So,
okay.
Maude, she's saying she's thinking about when her and Walter were just getting together, and he used to do this thing. He would get the straw hat
with his ukulele, and he would strum, "Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't mean maybe."
And Walter's like, "But you hated that."
And Maude says, "I know. Why don't you keep doing it?"
Yes. And she's saying, "Don't you see? Our life is dull. It's
monotonous. It's boring."
I think Walter says something about, we're not predictable, and she says I predicted you were going to say that.
Yep. And she's like futzing around with the couch and the throw pillows.
And she tells Walter, she says, why can't we be as romantic as our neighbors? And he's like, the Greenblatts
are romantic. And the Greenblatts, I think, are sort of like, I genuinely feel like the Greenblatts are almost written to be like the Bunkers, where it's very like, you have Maude, who's this liberal, and she's surrounded by conservatism. And I just imagine the Greenblatts to be, or even In Bewitched, Abner and
Gladys.
What were their last names? Did they have a last name?
Yeah, Kravitz.
Kravitz, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes, sort of like the Kravitz.
Gladys Kravitz. Abner.
I loved the first Gladys that they had. I never cared for the second one.
And I liked the first Aaron. He really didn't care for the second.
Oh, I love Dick York.
Yeah.
Dick Sargent, I think, was the second.
The second.
Was the second.
He was. Let's admit, he was better looking.
He was better looking, obviously.
Better looking,
but he didn't have the same
je ne sais quoi.
I guess
I don't know. There was just something about Dick
York just had that face.
Yeah.
He had that sort of Desi Arnaz type of character
something
face.
about when he was like, Sam?
Yeah, when he was like, when he was just, you saw the emotions on his face.
Yeah.
With Dick York, it was just...
He was a little flat.
Very flat. I didn't think he was a little flat. He was very flat.
He was very flat.
Which means, I mean, you had the likes of Agnes Moorehead and Paul Lynde, and all of the aunts and other uncles, and obviously Dora's husband, whose name escapes me at the moment. But you just had them to sort of help. I don't think Dick Sargent. I mean, he was good looking. He was okay, but he never really came. I don't think he really matched their level. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
He just
I mean, the only reason that show continued to stay on the air was because Elizabeth Montgomery was such a champion for it, and it was also, it was an allegory for queerness.
Yeah,
it was an allegory for queerness, which I think has only continued into today's media.
Yeah.
So back on the ranch.
Yeah, so Walters says, he's can't believe that the Greenblatts are romantic, and Maude
says, not the Greenblatts, it's Arthur and Viv.
He woke her up with his stethoscope, Walter, and whispered sweet nothings into her ear.
And Walter says, I'm no doctor, but would you settle for Q-tips? I have to say, I always appreciate Bill Macy's delivery.
Mm-hmm.
He really can deliver a good, straight line to Maude.
Yes. And then Maude says, and you know what else?
On an impulse.
An impulse. He got at the McCabin at Lake George.
Have you ever been to Lake George?
Yes, I have.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, it is.
My cousin and her wife, my cousin proposed to her wife at Lake George.
Mm-hmm. I don't like swimming in lakes, though. I don't
do lakes.
I don't like. I'll look at them, sure.
I won't. Maybe I will put my feet in that. That is the extent.
About a quarter inch of water.
Just that's about. That's it for me in the good times.
Lake beds are just like
cesspools.
Yeah,
they're fish cesspools,
basically. Yeah, I'm not even that crazy about going into the ocean.
So again, I will mention my cousin and her wife. My cousin and her wife love going to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And they love inviting me.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever my cousin doesn't want to go, my cousin's wife, Jamie, will be like, come out with me. We'll go together. And we people watch. And we just chill under an umbrella and just bullshit. And it's wonderful and it's fabulous. But then she'll say, do you want to go into the water? And it takes me a little bit, but once I'm in the water, I can get up to about my chest, which means I can go. Oh no! I can go pretty far out because I'm a skyscraper.
I would have drowned at that.
Yes. No, that's
the one be up to your chest, and you'd be like, "Where's Toni?
Where's Toni?" Toni is literally under the water at that point. Oh my god. But I tell you, some people are bold at the beach,
I know,
man.
Yeah.
Some people are very bold.
Not me, no.
Some people are very bold. And some people I'm just like, be bolder. With that body, be bolder.
Have you ever gone to a nude beach?
Never.
Oh.
They're all old.
Oh.
Older.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, when Frank and I were first together, we used to go to the nude beach all the time.
Isn't there one?
Well, it used to be at Robert Moses.
That's what it was, Robert Moses.
Yeah, but I think
only
anymore.
Certain parts.
I don't even know. I think they
only certain parts.
I think they got rid of any of it. So, yeah. I always liked the nude beach.
I can't possibly imagine why.
I enjoyed,
Oh, you just enjoyed no, I get it.
being, like sunbathing.
Yeah,
in the
sunbathing
nude
in the
and
nude.
all that, and walking into the water just a little bit nude. So,
I mean,
for us, it was nothing sexual about it. It was just, it was just
people
enjoying
enjoying being in that
nude in nature.
No, I get that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Honestly, for me, I'm not saying that there is. I've had offers, and it's just I'm like, no, I don't particularly care for it. Not my scene, not my ish.
Yeah. Nothing wrong either way.
Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. So Maude is telling him, Walter, that they're doing this romantic getaway to this cabin at Lake George, and Walter's saying, oh well, if I would do that, I would be impulsive like that. And Maude's like, oh, you mean it?
And being so sweet and romantic.
She's like, oh, she's so
Your
sorry
mustache is tickling me.
Oh.
And then at that point, Arthur storms in.
And they're like, laying on each other.
They're laying on each other.
The couch. And Arthur just barges
on in, saying, oh, Walter, thanks for the key.
Yes.
Thanks for the key to the cabin this weekend. Mm-hmm. And you see Maude clawing into Walter's back.
Yes, and Arthur is saying how, a business acquaintance of Walter gave him the key, and he gave it to Arthur to go use the cabin.
And Maude throws
Walter said that he would have, gladly been impulsive and spontaneous and taken.
English is hard. Words are hard.
Words hard.
Words hard.
Fire.
So Maude tosses Walter off of her and,
demands an explanation.
And then that's when we find out that Walter was given a key by one of his business associates to take up to the cabin, but Walter, being stupid, instead gives the key to the newlyweds.
To Arthur. Because he figured Arthur and Vivian would like to go up there, and he didn't think Maude would want to.
Yep. And I think this was one of the only times in any episode where Maude apologizes for yelling.
Could be.
I think this is one of the only times because she literally said, "I'm sorry, I yelled."
Yes.
And then, then Arthur comes in and ruins the entire mood. But the face that Bill Macy makes, I think he really. I mean, the acting was brilliant because Walter really wanted to kill Arthur at that point.
Definitely. So then Walter he starts telling Arthur that
you got a big mouth.
Walter and Maude are gonna go
with Arthur and Viv up to the cabin.
And Arthur's saying, "Well,
Vivian's not gonna be too pleased about that."
And he storms out.
Yep. And at that point,
Maude comes in.
Maude comes in with a phone book.
Yes.
And she goes to sit down, and Walter is like apologetic, and Maude is still very apoplectic at the moment.
I have to make a
very important phone call. It can't wait. And obviously the person on the other end picks up and she goes, "Hello, Sunnybrook Retirement Cottage?
Sunshine Village Retirement.
Sunshine Village Retirement.
Yes.
I'd like to make a reservation for Ma and Pa Findlay."
So Walter makes her hang up the phone, and he tells her they're going to go with Arthur and Vivian to the cabin.
And Maude says, "That's about as spontaneous as gas after Mexican."
After Mexican. Which I always say, you won't let me sit at the table.
I will not let you sit at the table when we eat Mexican. When we eat Mexican food, you sit at the counter.
So then Vivian storms in, and now she's mad at Maude because she feels that they've ruined her
romantic evening.
Weekend.
Her romantic weekend.
With Arthur. She says, you're ruining my weekend.
Yep. And she insults Maude, saying, like, you guys are just a couple of old fuddy-duddies, old fogies. And, Maude's like, old fogies? Yeah. Vivian, I'm going to excuse that because I know it comes from an insecure bride and an aging body.
So Vivian tries to do some
math. Yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And she says, Maude and Arthur, together, they're 100, but her and Arthur
make 97. And
Did I say
Maude,
that right?
yes,
Maude and Walter
together are 100.
Vivian and Arthur together
Are only 97. And Maude says, "That's impossible, Vivian. That makes Arthur 3.
And Vivian does it. Oh, yeah.
Just, oh my God. Well, here's your dumb coat, and here's your dumb this, here's your dumb key, and I'm just, she storms out in a huff.
Yes. And
you
she
know,
storms out and she says that her and Arthur can find spontaneity at home.
Yes, and, Maude then says, "We could be just as spontaneous and romantic as you are."
Yes.
Vivian slams the door. Maude turns to Walter and goes, "She's right.
Walter.
She's
We
right,
are
Walter.
old fogies.
We are old folks."
And Walter's saying we're going to go to the cabin. We're going to have the time of our lives.
And,
nothing. And Maude is like, no. She doesn't want to go. She says, "Nothing you can say can change my mind."
And then Walter says, "Oh, yeah."
He runs out
With a straw hat and the ukulele.
with the straw hat, the ukulele, singing,
"Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir."
Don't say maybe.
And of course, Maude's like, "I want you just please promise me one thing. That you'll stop.
Stop.
Like, I'll go. Just
go on
promise
one
me
condition.
one thing. One condition.
You'll stop singing.
That you stop singing."
So then we come to the break.
So there's a commercial break, and then when we come back
to the cabin.
And
they're both singing,
yes, sir, that's my baby.
That's my baby. And as they walk into the cabin, they walk in, and the cabin is
dusty,
filthy.
disgusting.
It is filthy. It's cobwebs and
dust
and everything.
I think there were literally like stage hands kicking up dust around the whole thing.
Yeah, it was a sight.
It was unkept.
And there's this huge moose head over
Yes.
the fireplace, and Maude was like looking at the moose,
And it was very just.
and she was saying something about she wondered if it crashed into the.
It must have been going awful fast.
It crashed into the house. Maude is just like, you know what?
Where do I plug in my water pick?
Yeah. She's like, it's ugly and depressing, but
Rustic.
they're gonna make it a.
They're gonna make the
paradise.
most of it, and they're gonna make it a paradise.
It's gonna be a chance to rediscover each other.
Yeah, Maude is trying real hard.
Yeah, she says, you know what? We're gonna go back out, and we're gonna come back in, and we're gonna pretend that it's like
The Waldorf Astoria
penthouse suite.
The penthouse suite at the Waldorf
At the Waldorf
Astoria.
Astoria. So they do that,
Which
They
is
go
a
out.
beautiful hotel.
Yeah, of course.
It's gorgeous.
Of course. So they go out, and then they're about to come back in, but Maude stops Walter. She wants him to carry her over the threshold. You can just see it, Walter's face at the thought of that.
I just...
Yeah.
It doesn't help that, like, Maude is just maybe a couple of inches taller than Walter.
Yes. And Walter says, well, since they're at the Waldorf Astoria, maybe they can get a bellboy.
He calls, literally, "Bellboy!"
to lift her up.
Bellboy.
So Walter, he attempts.
He tries to lift up
trimps,
Maude.
and then he tells her he's going to have to do it in two
trips.
And that's where the line comes in.
An abominable snowman will get you for that.
That's right. The abominable snowman will get you for that, Walter.
So at that point, Maude walks in first.
Yes.
And I never noticed it while I was watching it on here. But when I bought the series on DVD and I was watching this episode, you can see beads of perspiration on B. Arthur's lip and her forehead.
Oh, really?
Because I don't think that set was cool.
Oh, they never are, because the lights and everything.
The lighting, and you have to remember, this scene was set in Lake George, obviously during March.
Right.
Which... incredibly cold and snow and this and that and the third.
And it's supposed to be that it's a freezing cold cabin.
It's a freezing cold cabin. So they are bundled
They're
up.
bundled
Maude
up.
is in what appears to be, she's in a pair of pants, these like knee-high boots.
Can you imagine if you were in drag and it's like July and August and you've got to be pretending that you're freezing in a cabin and you're like all bundled up?
My makeup would literally be on the floor. My makeup would literally just slip right off of my face onto the floor.
I mean, I might get like just a little like bead of perspiration, but that's about it.
Are you proud of yourself?
Yes, I am.
Do you enjoy telling me these stories?
I do.
As a matter of fact,
it tickles me.
I was telling my mother yesterday. I was like, Tony's such a bitch to me, because I was like, when I dress up, I'm in a corset and I can't eat. And me and Toni just recently were at a benefit lunch
Brunch.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
If that's what you want to call it. It was
Linner.
So it was a benefit dinner, and
Dunch.
We'll take Dunch. I'll take Dunch. That's fine. So it was a charity event, and me and Toni were Dorothy and Sophia for it. And whenever I'm in any kind of drag, I will always cinch my waist. It doesn't matter if I'm wearing something gossamer, if I'm wearing something skin tight. I will always have my corset on, just because of the illusion, and it shapes my body. And I was telling my mother how every time I'm in drag and I have to put my corset on, and Toni's is Sophia, Toni can do whatever he wants because Toni's not corseted or tough
I have
or
my
anything.
corset on.
When you're Sophia?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes. I still want to try to look at, because Sophia was so thin.
I mean, yeah, she was.
So I'm, I don't want a bulging stomach.
No.
So yeah, I still have my corset on.
I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I could have sworn there were, well, I'm hoisted by my petard. No, because I thought, and again, I was
just invalidated your whole story.
You just invalidated the entire story.
That felt good.
Are you? Welcome to the last episode of God Will Get You for That, Walter. We thank you for joining us. This is the last episode.
So what was the point of this
inconsequential
story? No, proceed, please.
I was just telling my mother that you were a bitch.
Okay, well, that's fair.
That's all. I was just telling my mother.
But why? Why? Because I was eating the.
Because you're able to eat and I'm not. You're able to eat when you're.
I only had a couple little bites of stuff. I wasn't like.
I still can't believe you put some of the Hoover Doovers, hors d'oeuvres in your purse.
In the purse. Well, that's what Sophia would do.
I know.
That's what Sophia would do. She would put it
what
in
Sophia
her purse.
would do.
That's what she would do. So if I'm being asked to be Sophia, you are going to get 110% of Sophia, which not everyone understands. But
and it only makes my job as Dorothy that much easier because I can just roll my eyes and just call her Ma and scream at her and whatnot.
All you have to do is just do Ma!
I just have to be myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I was even making a joke with Toni yesterday. The older we get, the easier it is for us to just slip into those characters.
And I said we have job
security.
As we age. Need less makeup.
Yeah. That's right. I'll just need a little bit of color corrector and mascara.
Exactly.
So Walter goes to set up the fire. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, they kiss.
Yes.
They kiss.
And Maude is saying they should bask in each other's bodies. And forget about the cold.
I mentioned earlier, she is really trying.
Yes. And so they kiss. And Maude is like, Walter, were you trying something new?
It was very fascinating.
Yeah, and he says he was shivering. So she said, "Oh, a vibrating mustache."
You want to know what's funny? At that moment, I wanted to cover your mouth. When she said vibrating mustache, I literally wanted to just reach across and cover your mouth. But I'm like, we're not in front of an audience.
Yeah. So Walter goes to
start the fire.
And
there was a bit of an interesting story where Maude was talking about how her grandmother's
house was like that.
Her grandmother's house was like this cabin.
Yes.
And
it only had the fireplace to heat it.
And Walter was like, "Oh, did she love it?" And Maude was like, "Yes," until she got pneumonia.
Until she died of pneumonia. So Walter is trying to light the fire, but apparently he can't get the flue open.
Yep.
So it starts filling up with smoke.
Yep. So Maude goes to open the door.
To open the door.
She opens the door, and then she says, "Oh, this is just how my grandmother went."
My grandmother went. So Walter, he fixes the flue.
Yep.
And so they've got the fire going now.
Yes, the fire is crackling.
And I think is that when they went to sit down on the couch?
They went to go sit down on the couch.
Sat down on the couch.
Walter goes to sit on his. He sits down fine. Maude sits down and falls through. She sings through.
Turns his head like doctor.
And she's down there.
And he's like, Maude?
That was very funny. That was very funny. I enjoyed that. And so then Maude's like, "Why don't we run around in our underwear?"
No, she tells. She says they can do anything, and she asks.
Yeah, Walter, Carol's not here. Philip's not here. No, Mrs. Naugatuck.
She tells him. She said, you could run around in your underwear, and he's like, maybe later. Obviously, it's too cold to be running around in your underwear.
Yes.
So now Maude is talking about seeing pictures in the fire,
reading the fire.
You know, she saw a Shetland pony running around, and what was it? Was like eating some of the flowers,
picking up lots of forget-me-nots.
And she asks Walter, what do you see?
He said, "I never read fires, but I watched Towering Inferno."
Yeah. But he saw a fire sale.
He saw a big fire.
Appliances.
Fire sale at Finley's Friendly Appliances. Our only sponsor.
Yes. So Maude asks Walter, where's the bathroom?
Where's the bathroom?
And he says, it must be through this door.
Yep.
So he opens the door.
And it leads
to the outside.
And he says, "Oh, look, it's an outhouse for the trees about 50 yards out, or 52 feet out."
Yes, and Maude says, "Oh, how quaint.
How quaint. I can hold out till Monday."
I can hold out till Monday.
Then they have this really funny bit about the two of them spending an evening together, being intimate. Like,
yeah, they're gonna get.
It's 5 after 6.
Jammies.
They're gonna get into the jammies
and retire. And Walter's like, we don't usually retire at
5 after 6.
5 after 6, and Maude's like, "Oh, we've retired retired."
Quote unquote retired.
Because she's not talking about retiring at 5 after 6.
She's talking about sex. She's talking about sex.
And Walter's like, "Well, then what are we going to do at
10 after 6?
Definitely sex they're talking about.
There was this beautiful joke in The Golden Girls where Dorothy at this point was played by, I think, Ellen Green. And Sophia was still played by Estelle Getty. And
B. Arthur was playing.
Not B. Arthur was playing the grandmother.
Oh,
it was a different episode.
Oh, it was different.
I think it was the episode where Ellen Green's Dorothy says to Sophia, "We have a problem. I'm married. I'm pregnant."
Right.
And
right.
It was that bit.
Right.
And I think it was the Valentine's Day episode, if I'm remembering correctly. And Sophia turns to Dorothy and says, "How could you blow all of your future on an hour's worth of passion?" And Dorothy's like, "What do you mean an hour's worth of passion?" Now, when you say an hour, do you mean everything? Does that mean everything? And it just tickles me. It tickles me.
So Maude gets an
inspiration. It's inspiration time.
It's inspiration time. She has a stroke of genius. They're going to take a
long walk through the woods.
Yes. And Walter's like, "I'm not going out there. There's
bearskin rugs. That ain't rugs.
That ain't rugs." Yes.
So, and at that point, Maude becomes a little incensed. Right. She goes, "I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go commune with God."
Yes, she's going to take a long walk all by herself.
All by herself. So she goes out the front door. Walter goes to the fire, and then Maude comes around and enters through where the outhouse is and says, "If God's out there, he's on his way to a Holiday Inn."
Yes. Yes. So Walter is basically given up at this point. He's like, what are we doing here? Everything's against us.
The weather, the house, the cabin.
And he says, we're not 20 anymore.
Nope.
He's like, and I think Maude gives in at this point too.
Yep, she says, "I miss my nice warm house with your nice warm snoring."
Yes, where they can be happy old fogies.
Yep. And at that point, I think Walter's like, "Well, I did feel a little guilty, because of Arthur's stethoscope."
Yeah. Yeah.
But he says, I may not be Sir Galahad. And who else did he say?
Prince Charming.
I may not be Prince Charming.
Yes.
But he's going to make the most
He's
of
going
it.
to make the most. So he grabs he pulls the mattress off the bed.
Yep.
And he puts it by the fire.
By the fire, lays it down.
Yes. And so he wants, so Maude is arguing with him.
Yeah, they're having a back and forth, saying, no, I'm not going to do it. No, we're not going to. Maude, please. And then, of course,
Maude,
down.
So Maude she goes down onto
Maude,
the mattress.
Maude lays on the mattress.
She lays on the mattress.
And, she's trying to still argue, and I think Walt just says, shut up and bundle.
Shut up and bundle. Yes.
So, I think Maude then says, I've always wanted to rough it with you.
Yes.
But, all I've been looking for is a little attention.
She's saying, really, it wasn't about the cabin.
It wasn't about the cabin or anything.
She just wanted
a little bit more attention. And I think she says that's what every wife wants, just a little bit more attention than what they've been paid.
Right.
And, I think at that point, Walter gets a little prideful and says, we could stay here for... I think Maude starts by saying, we could stay here all weekend. And Walter's like, a weekend? We could stay here a month.
A lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then by the time he says life, because they go over a period of time, like Walter says a month, Maude says a year, Walter says a lifetime, and then Maude finally says, good, now that we've proved it to ourselves, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point,
Arthur and Vivian enter.
They
come in.
And Maude and Walter are like, oh, they're so happy to see them. And Maude is like, oh, we feel terrible that we that we made you miserable.
Yep.
And so Maude says, you know what? You take the cabin. You have it all to yourselves. We're gonna leave. We don't want to ruin your romantic getaway.
Yep.
You take the cabin, and we'll leave. And which they do. They storm out of there, and they leave it to Arthur.
They were literally out of there in the blink of an eye.
Blink of an eye. Blink of an eye. And so now Arthur and Vivian are
left alone
at the cabin.
They're looking around the cabin, and Vivian's like, "Oh, this is so romantic and woodsy and rustic." And Arthur's like, "Well, if you say so."
Yeah,
and then of course at that point,
Vivian says,
"Where do I plug in my water pick?" And Arthur says, "Oh, it must be here in this bathroom." Mm-hmm. And they open the bathroom door.
Yeah.
And just this wind with snow. I'm sure that snow was asbestos. Just hits Arthur in the face.
Yeah, definitely.
And
we had a water pick when I was a kid.
We did too.
Yeah.
No, we did too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed using it. I did.
Interesting.
Now I use floss.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
That's all.
Okay. That'll work too.
I enjoy having good oral health, thank you.
Very, very nice.
I'm sure.
Very nice.
We thank you so much for listening.
Yes.
Where can they find you?
They can find me everywhere, Toni Homeperm. And of course, that's
Toni with an I.
And you?
You can find me on street corners. So I've been told. So I've been told by my drag mother you can find me on street corners.
Oh, I know her. She's a bitch. Am I wrong?
I tried to call Alexis last night. I was so shocked she didn't answer.
She must have had a gentleman caller.
Yeah, okay. And I'm an ovum. You can find me at that Tomcat on all forms of social media, and that's Cat with 2 T's. That's that Tom with 2 T's as well.
And of course, they can find God'll Get You for That Walter.
Where all podcasts are found. Facebook, Instagram, and
Podcast.
YouTube. So on Facebook, we are God'll Get You for That Walter. On Instagram, we are Findley's Friendly Appliances. And on YouTube, we are also God'll Get You for That Walter. We thank you so much for listening.
And also, they should also follow,
Dorothy and Sophia.
Dorothy and Sophia show.
Yes, they can. I need to write down where the hell they can find us with that.
Well, our Facebook is the Dorothy and Sophia show.
Facebook is the Dorothy and Sophia
show. And Instagram is
Dorothy Sophia 1985.
And it's also
Dorothy Sophia 1985 on YouTube.
Yes. Until we get enough subscribers that
we can make it our own
change it
and change it to what we want it to be.
What we want it to be. So Follow us there.
Follow us there. Give us a like.
Those are your orders.
Those are your orders
for the week.
Listen to Sophia.
Sophia says.
We thank you so much for listening, and you will hear us again next week on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.